The U.S.-China tech war has entered a new and far more aggressive phase. Under President Trump, Washington has expanded blacklists, tightened investment bans, and leaned heavily on export controls to choke off Chinese firms' access to advanced technology. It is no longer just about tariffs or rhetoric. It is about reshaping the global technology order. At the heart of this strategy is the Commerce Department's Entity List, an economic weapon that prevents U.S. firms from selling key hardware, software, and services to companies deemed a threat to U.S. national security. What was once a short list of high-profile targets like Huawei has ballooned to around 1,100 Chinese entities, spanning AI, semiconductors, quantum research, and even surveillance startups. Trump's rationale is familiar, but now executed with far greater force. Decades of alleged intellectual property theft, valued by Washington at up to $540 billion annually, the Chinese model of military-civil fusion, and concerns that cutting-edge American technology could be used in Beijing's military buildup. The escalation, however, is not simply punitive. It is designed to slow China's progress in the very areas that will define global power in the 21st century: AI, chips, 5G, and quantum computing. The most recent escalation came in September 2025, when Washington introduced the so-called affiliates rule. For the first time, any subsidiary that is 50% or more owned by a blacklisted firm is automatically added to the blacklist. This closes a loophole many Chinese groups relied on to continue operations under new names or offshore entities. The move dramatically expands the scope of sanctions and could affect hundreds of additional firms tied to giants like Huawei, SMIC, and SenseTime. As one U.S. official put it bluntly, if you are a shadow arm of a listed company, you are now on the list. The impact on China's major technology players has been immediate. Huawei, the original target of Trump's crackdown, was effectively cut off from Taiwan's TSMC and other suppliers of advanced chips due to the foreign direct product rule. Though Huawei clawed back some ground in 2023 with a domestically produced 7nm AI chip made by SMIC, the company remains unable to match the efficiency and scale of American-designed processors like NVIDIA's A100 or H100. Huawei's executives have publicly tried to frame this struggle as long-term resilience, saying entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. But the pain of losing easy access to the world's most advanced silicon is obvious. SMIC itself is now under immense pressure. As China's top contract chipmaker, it has faced years of restrictions on purchasing U.S. lithography and design tools. The expanded blacklist and Taiwan's decision in June 2025 to require export licenses for all shipments to Huawei and SMIC have further boxed in the firm. Without extreme ultraviolet (EUV) machines, and with suppliers wary of U.S. secondary sanctions, SMIC faces a long and uncertain climb towards catching up with global leaders like TSMC and Samsung. AI and surveillance firms have also been hit hard. Companies like SenseTime, Megvii, and Hikvision were added to the blacklist due to their role in state surveillance programs, particularly in Xinjiang. The timing of some actions was dramatic. SenseTime was blacklisted while one of its co-founders was in the U.S. trying to secure international partnerships, underscoring how these moves are designed not just to punish, but to chill global collaboration. Faced with this squeeze, Beijing has doubled down on its call for technological self-reliance. Billions of dollars are flowing into domestic semiconductor fabs, AI research parks, and green energy supply chains. Forecasts now suggest that China's computing sector could grow 8 times faster than that of the US by 2029, with the market surging to nearly $30 billion. Whether those projections come true or not, the intent is clear. China will not rely on American technology, even if it must build parallel systems from scratch. At the same time, Beijing is hitting back. In September 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce placed 6 U.S. firms on its own trade restriction lists, 3 on an unreliable entity list, and 3 on an export control list for alleged military technical cooperation with Taiwan. This effectively banned them from doing business in China. The symbolism is as important as the substance. Washington blacklists Chinese companies, and Beijing blacklists American ones. Meanwhile, Chinese regulators have launched high-profile antitrust probes into U.S. tech giants like Google and NVIDIA, framing them as part of an effort to ensure fair competition, but widely seen as retaliation.
The global fallout is already visible. Supply chains are splitting. American allies, including Taiwan and Japan, are aligning more closely with Washington's restrictions, while many firms are restructuring supply lines to avoid the risk of being caught between two regulatory regimes. The result is a bifurcated technology world. One ecosystem led by U.S. standards, hardware, and cloud platforms. The other dominated by Chinese-developed alternatives in chips, AI applications, and telecommunications. Yet Washington's aggressive approach also carries costs at home. Economic models estimate that tariffs and tech bans could shave 0.8% off long-run U.S. GDP and raise household expenses by around $1,600 per year by 2026. American exporters in sectors like semiconductors, cloud services, and industrial equipment are losing access to the Chinese market, one of the fastest growing on Earth. In other words, the price of containment is not borne by Beijing alone. So, who wins? The uncomfortable truth is that neither side emerges as a clear victor. The United States still dominates in frontier innovation, generative AI, chip design, advanced lithography, and controls choke points in the supply chain. But China holds unmatched scale in manufacturing, vast domestic demand, and the political will to pour resources into substitution. As one Chinese analyst quipped, Americans think in terms of sprints, but the Chinese think in terms of marathons. What is clear is that the global tech industry will not return to the integrated model of the 2000s. Instead, two competing ecosystems are hardening, each suspicious of the other, each trying to control standards and supply chains. The Trump administration's blacklist expansion is not just an economic measure, it is a geopolitical weapon. And while Beijing scrambles to adapt, Washington risks overplaying its hand, alienating allies, and imposing costs on its own economy. The world is now watching a high-stakes experiment unfold. Can the U.S. successfully contain China's technological rise through relentless blacklisting and sanctions? Or will China's vast resources and determination allow it to build a parallel system that rivals Washington's? The answer may take years to emerge, but one thing is certain. The tech war is no longer a metaphor. It is the battlefield on which the future balance of global power is being decided.